you've taken this very holistic approach to golf. Can you tell us how you came to this holistic approach and why you gravitate towards it versus some of the other ways that people coach golf?
Yeah. So, growing up self-taught playing golf, we just went and played golf. I didn't get formal swing instruction. I didn't know what TrackMan, like there's so much technology and everything and instruction in golf. And I just grew up playing, right? If I wanted to make it go left, well, I kind of knew how to make that happen, right? Trial and error. And there was an aspect of that, I think, that was good and bad looking back, right? And that's one part of golf is the mechanics of it, right? The other part where I've experienced is how my personal life reflects how I play, right? Golf, you spend 1% of your time out there executing golf shots and 99% of the time with your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you have stuff going on in your life, good luck keeping that at bay for 4 hours of the 4.5 hour round, right? And then, that's kind of what sparked, I think, my interest in the mental game. I coached in college for 4 years at three different places after I got back into it. And I could relate to a lot of the struggles that kids would have at that age because I had been through that not that long ago, right? Like I had, and I was passionate about getting back into golf because it was what I loved. It was what I knew growing up, and I had chased the wrong things. And I could see when guys were worrying about, comparison or all these other things that I had dealt with. And that's where I got into kind of the mental game. And, we worked with Brian Kane when I was at Marquette, and that kind of started to open my eyes a little bit to this mental aspect of it. And then I've always been kind of a math data driven person. So the strategy piece of game, like the numbers, has always been intriguing. And so when I coached college golf, it's kind of like that. It was like there's a little bit of golf swing, a little bit of self-management, and a little bit of strategy and playing the numbers, right? Like it's a math game at the end of the day. And I think we've gotten to a point in golf where instruction has gone to social media, right? So, everyone on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, whatever, everyone's like a swing instructor now, right? And I think that's how a lot of kids learn to play golf at a young age is you go get a swing lesson, right? And there's a lot of really good golf swings, but a lot of the stuff we've talked about, that applies to golf too, right? Like it's so much more than this nice little box of standing on a tee and comfortable environment and someone teaches you how to swing a golf club right. Like that's great. It's good to have proper technique, but like we've talked about, you got the swing management, you've got the self-management, and you've got the strategy piece to golf. And that's kind of what I've always known in college. And so as I jump into coaching players, I have a passion for the mental game and what I've learned over the years and how I've seen it impact me and, my love for data and math and all that kind of stuff. And I've had to learn the technical side over the years, but I'm like, everyone's kind of teaching in this silo. And like we've talked about, when you go out there and you hit a golf ball, that golf ball knows what you're thinking and knows what your target is and knows your mechanics. That golf ball knows all of those things, right? And so if you teach golf in a silo, I feel like you're missing a whole lot of how do you manage my emotions? How do I understand situations and manage myself? And you playing golf, this, right? Like it's a reflection of your life. And if I'm not teaching the life portion of golf, I think a lot of these kids are going to miss out on what's possible in the game, whether it's competitive or not.
Yeah. The golf game that you play when you show up on that first tee really starts from the time you get out of bed. I mean, that game of golf has occurred, depending on how you started your morning. And if you started your morning rushed and you didn't make your bed and you didn't, get your homework done and you didn't, all of those things impact how you show up on the first tee. And if you don't have a good self-image of yourself, then as soon as the second person walks on that tee, right? Everything seems fine. You put your tee in the ground, you're on the first tee and the beautiful day. And then all of a sudden Johnny shows up or Bobby shows up and says, we have a match today. The whole day could change or not change depending upon how prepared you are. And I think that's what I love about, the holistic approach is you're right. You could sit on a mat with a flag and a target and TrackMaster and grind all that stuff in. But as soon as John shows up and says, I'm playing against you today, how are you prepared for that?
Yeah. It's like, am I going to play the comparison game? right? Did I get enough sleep last night? Am I fueled, ready to go? Like, do I have my yardage book ready? There's so many things that go in to playing a round of golf that I've had to learn over the years, right? And that's what my passion is, like giving these kids tools so that they don't have to go to college and figure it out the hard way, right? Like I want to give them opportunities that I didn't have because of what I know and what I've experienced, and help them with that learning curve, because I've seen it as a player in college. I've seen it as a coach in college. I've seen how my life's been impacted on having the wrong values and seeking the wrong things, right? You know, I see kids that go have a bad round and they want to go get a swing lesson. And I'm like, man, let's just like get your homework done. Let's get you getting 8 hours of sleep at night. Like,
Yeah.
is there something going on in your family life? Did your like their girlfriends break up with them, whatever, like all these variables. And it doesn't matter what age you are. That stuff affects how you play golf. And if you avoid it, that golf ball knows, the scorecard knows, like it all knows. Right. And so I just kind of gotten on this mission of like coaching people to know what's your process, what are your values, what are your routines, and so much of it is not golf related, it's life related. I would rather coach a kid that said, yeah, I've got a swing instructor, great, like keep doing it. Let's have a great golf swing. You're learning a lot of things, but let's figure out how do we manage this in the moment, in competition. How do we prepare? How do we sleep? How do we, do meditation and journaling? And how do we reflect after rounds, and really dive into why are you doing what you're doing? Because that at the end of the day, I think is the ticket for golf and life and business. It's why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I want to, before we wrap up, I want to get to is the concept of pressure, and the fact that pressure is just a signal that you're about to do something important. You're doing something you care about. That concept that Trevor Moawad, who recently passed away, I think really emphasized was that pressure is a privilege. It is pressure is the privilege of those who are doing something they care deeply about. If I didn't care, then I wouldn't feel any pressure. If I didn't care about the outcome, I wouldn't care. If I didn't have any of my heart and soul invested in it, I wouldn't care. But it's hard to create pressure in practice. It's hard to create the nerves that come from having to make a putt that means something versus a putt that you're just doing. How do you help your clients, your athletes, your students understand pressure and how to create pressure in practice, or pressure in situations to prepare them for the pressure they're going to feel? Although nothing prepares us obviously for the moment, but the more we can prepare and expect that moment and know that there'll be some pressure, it doesn't have as much influence over us. And so what's the Trake Carpenter pressure recipe?
Yeah. So just to talk about pressure a little bit, I was talking to a young man I worked with last week, and we've had a couple conversations about him feeling nerves and anxiety early in rounds. And we got to this point where I felt like he was fishing for like a magic pill that makes pressure and nervousness go away.
Right.
And I said, that never happens. Like, look at the Ryder Cup a couple of weeks ago. Those guys on the first tee, you see their heart rate on their Whoop data, right? I said, first of all, you've got to understand that never goes away. And if you do get to a point where that's gone away, you're not in an environment where you're doing anything worthwhile. So let's change our perspective and see that anxiety and fear, or whatever you want to call it, is that's an opportunity to showcase all the work you've put in. You were in the spot that all this work we've done, that's why we're here. Right. So start seeing that as like energy and excitement. And like, this is the chance for me to find out how good I am. Like, don't be afraid to fail in that moment. Like, give it all you got. We'll reflect after the round and figure out what we need to do to manage that situation better next time. Right. But I'm like, if you just avoid that fear, we're never going to find out what you need to do to handle it better. Right. So first things like perspective shift on what is fear, what is pressure. Right. And then when it comes to practice, I love to measure things. Right. And I don't, it's not necessarily outcomes. Like, you can measure processes, right? Like, I've got this drill of just making 100 3-footers in a row, which you could do, I can do, anyone can do. It's a 3-footer, make it dead straight. You can do it on your carpet at home, whatever. What it is a mental training, right? Because you get to 95, 96, 97, what happens? I start to think, man, if I miss 98 putts, if I miss the 98th putt, I'm going to have to go back and start over. Right. And that's who knows how long, an hour and a half. Right. So you've got that pressure that mounts as you get to the completion of the drill, What also happens is I'll find guys, I'll be like, okay, tell me how many times it took you to do it, 4 or 5. I say, well, on what number did you miss the first couple of times? And maybe it's, on the 15th or the 27th putt. And what happens is they start looking ahead, right? So it comes both ways. You get to the end and you start looking back. You start at the beginning and you're looking ahead and you're like, it's the 17th putt. I just kind of do my thing. You lose focus of the present moment. So something like that, where you're compounding shots over time, and something as basic as a 3-footer, the pressure mounts the longer you do it. You start to look back, and if you start to look forward, you're going to fail. And so it's teaching you to be in that present moment, which when you're facing fear and the possibility of failure, is like the more present you can be, pay attention to your routine, your presence. It's just one shot, right? Just one shot, just execute that. Don't worry about outcomes. Stuff like that. I like to create an environment as much as possible. That's the best way I found to create pressure in the way we train. And like you said, when it comes to pressure, there's going to be a moment where you're forced to find out how tough you are or how much resiliency you have. And if you wait until that moment, it's probably not going to end very well for you. But if you seek opportunities to put yourself in adverse situations, whether it's golf or life related, just doing hard things, you build that mental resiliency, that mental muscle of, hey, when I'm up against something, I know what I've got because I've put myself in that environment willingly. And that could be as simple as like, I listened to Ryan Holiday tell an example the other day. That could be as simple as like a cold shower in the morning, right? Like I'm standing here under this cold water and I have control over that knob. I'm choosing to deal with some adversity right now and take some cold water. Maybe it's 5 or 10 seconds, but I'm choosing that adversity. So I think shifting pressure is a privilege, that mindset shift, and that's never going to go away, and embrace it. And then seeking adversity and just things we do in everyday life builds that mental muscle of, hey, when I'm back against the wall, I've done this for the fun of it and for the challenge. Sign me up.